If there's one thing you must know about me, it's that I love magic, and I could potentially offer you several suggestions for shows involving witches, wizards, demon hunting, or magical adventures at any given time. I've watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charm, The Vampire Diaries, the original, The Magicians, as well as animated series such as Owl House, Winx Club, She-Ra and the Princess of Power, and The Dragon Prince. This is the Zesty Podcast. I am your host, Malik Anderson, aka Taka, and today we'll hear about a graphic novel series that starts with a demon summoning ritual going awry. Perfect for spooky season. It's called Muted, based on the hit webtoon series of the same name. It's about a 21-year-old witch named Camille from a prominent family whose magic goes haywire after said ritual, which leads her down a path of uncovering secrets about her family, the circumstances of her birth, and the true origins of her power. Muted Volume 1 is out now, but Volume 2 is going to be published on Tuesday, October 14th. So here today with us, we have Miranda Munt, who's going to tell us all about the series. They are Seattle-based graphic novelists known for co-creating Lovebot with their wife, fellow artist Chase Kills. Miranda, welcome to the Zesty Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
First off, congratulations on the forthcoming release of Volume 2 of
Yay.
Muted.
Thank
I'm
you.
really looking forward to reading the next installment.
Yay. I'm really super excited too because it's like I love volume 1 obviously, but like I definitely feel like from literally cuz well, I don't want to spoil how volume 1 ends, but like something that happens at the end of volume 1 is like really like be like okay, this is where the story like really gets started type of thing. And so like that's when the ball starts to go like really fast as far as like all like the plot and the drama and everything goes.
Yeah, well, like, how about this? We'll promise not to give any spoilers for the end of volume one, but we'll just talk about, how the series developed, how it formed, and how it unfolds, and kind of leave a little bit of a sense of wonder. So, I mean, so someone who hasn't like read the series yet, they could go out and find it for themselves, read it,
Yay.
and they're ready and prepped for volume two.
Sounds
Um,
great.
so, from my understanding, you originally planned to create a graphic novel series alongside your wife, which eventually became Lovebot, correct?
Mhm. Correct.
But you specifically wanted to create a graphic novel series about witches in New Orleans.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it was
Uh,
like oh sorry, go ahead.
I don't tell me about what fascinates you about writing about witches.
Which is what like I've always you can say it's sort of like a neurodivergence or like a gender sort of thing, but it's like I feel like a lot or like a queer identity thing. It's like I feel like it's very common to feel not normal, so quote unquote, so to speak, or whatever. And so like even from like as a kid where I was like I had a very long phase where I sincerely believed like, oh, I'm a fairy trapped in a person's body. And it's like sort of that thing where it's like I've just always been like inclined towards magical things because I just feel like there's, just like so much going on there. And it's like so while I wouldn't classify myself as a witch, I am very much drawn to like those more like types of like spiritualistic and that type of energy and things. And so, uh, and so it was like, a conversation with Chase where I was just like, we have a lot of characters. I just realized that despite being a lesbian, I don't have any very lesbian characters. And despite being a very witchy person, I don't have very many witch characters. And I was like, well, what if I made a whole bunch of them?
Well, I love that you did because this is the perfect series for me because I am one of those people that still believes for some reason I think that my powers are going to kick in and I try to summon
Yes.
things like Prue Halliwell from Charm once like every time and people just look at me like what are you doing? What are like that's you don't have telekinesis. I like
Yeah,
to hope. I like to believe.
yeah. I like to do a thing. Do you ever, do you drive? Can you drive?
I do drive,
Yeah,
but
but
not
it's
as
like,
often now that I live in New York City, but
oh, that's fair. Yeah, but it's like, like whenever you're at like a stoplight, I sometimes just go like, go. And if it changes, then I'm like, yeah, this is it.
it's like this is
I
my
did
power
that.
coming in.
I did that.
I like to believe that I have premonitions. Every moment
Yep.
for me is like, deja vu. I saw
Yeah.
that happening for some reason. Yeah. But New Orleans is, I mean, is a backdrop for so many of these kinds of stories. And I actually heard that you actually visit New Orleans and you got a chance to walk through the city. Tell me about what was so fun about exploring New Orleans as a backdrop for Muted.
It's so beautiful there. Like I always loved it because, like you said, it's like in the backdrop of a lot of other media. So like seeing it, I was like, that place looks really pretty and looks really cool. But like actually being there, I was like, and it was a few years ago we was talking about, I'm like, we gotta go back there. We gotta go. But like just like being in the city and like, because had never been in a city like that before, and just like the energy. So even just like the concept of like people being on the streets with no like cars driving around because they're just like all like walking around and just like so much, and just like the architecture is beautiful. And we went in October, but it was still hot. It was blissfully one night it wasn't as humid as everything else, but it was
The
still like,
swamp heat.
oh yeah. And I feel like that heat is its own level of, oh. I mean, I'm here. It keeps you grounded in your body because you can't think about anything else except about how hot you are.
So did any of those moments from your trip or places that you saw like make their way specifically into the graphic novel?
Yeah, so like the swamp that a majority of the story takes place in is like just like a made up fictional house in a general swamp. But like anytime they're like actually in New Orleans is all based on places that we like actually went. In particular, again, not to spoil anything, but like there's uh like a cafe that they go to that like I went to, and I changed the name of it because I didn't know if I was legally allowed to say the name of the cafe.
Fair enough.
But I changed the name to Nat's Cafe, which is actually my little sister's name, Natalie, because I
Oh,
wanted to try and bring homage to her. And it's the same. There's another character in here, Rowena, the little redheaded girl, is very much
yes.
based on Natalie when she was younger.
Well, does she know that? Did you tell her
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. It was funny because like, she kind of like sort of brought it up to me in a way where she was reading it, and she's like, I really love Rowena, and she's like, and I kind of feel like, is she? And I was like, yeah. All in love.
That's
Yeah, so
beautiful.
she was very happy about it.
So this project was originally a series on Webtoons. When did the deal with 10 Speed Graphic, the Penguin Random House imprint come about?
Yeah, so like the Muted as a series actually finished all the way back in 2022. And it was just the process of, because like I thought about it while I was working on it. I was like, oh, I should probably like try to find an agent, uh and and get that started, because like you can't really get the book without the agent. But like the process of querying for an agent is like so extensive. I feel like it's like when you're like applying for a job, like times 10, because it's like not just about working there, it's about if your project is good enough for them to represent it. That's how I feel about it anyway. But like every time I submitted a query, I would just like have to lay down for an hour just because it took so much out of me. And I'm like, even pat myself on the back. I'm like, good job sending in one query. But that's why when I was working on the series, I was like, I can't do that. And if it does get a book deal, I don't know if I could do both at the same time. But just because of how much work the actual series was taking. And so, which is particularly funny only because my agent that I have now, who I really adore, Stephanie Winter, actually did email me while I was still working on the series. Um, and so, but yeah, and then worked with her, and then basically went to publishers like, hey, the series is done. It's done. We just have to put it on a page instead, and you can have it. And luckily, 10 Speed had already picked up a couple of other webtoons, Suit Armor and Castle Swimmer, which are both great. And they were like, yeah, cool, yeah, we like this one. And I was like, yeah. So yeah. So then I spent a couple months redoing the layout from vertical scrolling into print pages, which I already had experience in. So yeah, and that's how it all went.
Wow, I was curious about that. Tell me a little bit more about that process, because that you were just talking about, because I was wondering, were there any adaptations or changes that you had to make in order to fit like the physical layout of a page?
There weren't as many as I anticipated there being. I think probably later down the line there will be more. But luckily it wasn't too much of an issue. There was like a couple of times where I was like, this isn't gonna fit, and I just redrew like the whole spread to like make it more of like a page, and that's more towards the end of volume one. But like I think of it just more of like a puzzle. And I have the benefit of muted backgrounds being sort of like flowy and like watercolory, where if I want it to fit in a panel that like goes farther technically than the images, then it's very easy to just sort of like blend it out to like let it flow into that more larger space. And so that actually worked out pretty well. And like I said, I had experience in the sense that before getting the deal with muted, I had worked on as the layout designer doing those conversions for like two or three other series before Muted Steel came up. So I was like, now it's my turn.
We are discussing a graphic novel series about a young witch who uncovers secrets about herself and her family. It's called Muted. Now I want to get a little bit into the content of the graphic novel,
Yeah,
um,
of course.
and some of your thought process behind like the lore of it, which I just love. In the graphic novel, there are several witch families, and in the
Yes.
Swords and Sapphics podcast, you mentioned how you felt inspired by the nations in Avatar: The Last Airbender. An amazing series, by the way. What is so fun about that model of having different families or communities with innate abilities?
I think it's also just like uh I think it's fun from like a reader perspective because it's like, like with Avatar, if you're like, if I was an Avatar, what nation would I belong to type thing, because you could put yourself in like in those shoes. And it's a very big
I would be
thing.
water
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah. All
or
the
earth. I don't
way.
know, or water or
Earth
earth,
is
but
good.
like
Yeah.
water
No,
for
Earth
me.
is really good too. But yeah, I always was a big fan. So to be fair, again, speaking back to the childhood thing, I used to think that if I whistled at a certain frequency, I could control the wind. So maybe I'm secretly an airbender.
Hey, harmonic convergence. There are many
Yeah.
more now.
Yep, that's true. But yeah, I'm not the last one. But like what was I saying? Oh yeah, but like just thought it was very, because like obviously the conceit of not really a spoiler, it's kind of obvious here, but it's like uh Camille actually being half from two different families, so it's two different sources of magic. It's like I don't think it's as much fun if it's sort of a Capulets and what is it, Montagues sort of
Yeah.
situation where it's just like two rival families. I think just like the broader spectrum of like if you're in an area, there's going to be more than just two witch families, especially as a place as big and as with as much, you know, energy and magic as New Orleans.
Honestly, I think it's really cool that there are so many families, because as I was reading, I was like, oh my gosh, like you have the Eloy family, which has this connection to spirits, and then LaRue with the plants and Dupree's and fire. I'm like, okay, what are the other possibilities? It kind of broadens out. There's more, there's a whole world out there, and you start to think you're like, wow, this is like a hidden universe. And made me
Yeah.
think like I guess what connection they might have to like mortals, or does this world
Yeah.
even have, is this just a magical world?
Yeah. Well, like I like I'm not gonna say that this is a spoiler because like I feel like this is it's sort of because the world that Dendro is from, the demon that Camille Summons is from, is called Treya, which is actually a world that Chase and I developed like since high school. It's like, and we've always said it's like a world that's like parallel to Earth. Yeah, so like every like group like sort of like sets their own rules like based on the thin spots that they found.
It, it's interesting that you bring that up because the protagonist, Camille, as you mentioned, is introduced as a member of the Seven family, who's known for blood magic. But we learn in the series rather early on, I don't know if this is probably not a
It happened.
spoiler.
It's like
It,
the inciting incident. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's probably not a spoiler, but like her father is of a different magical family.
Mhm.
Um, how does coming from two separate witch families affect the familiar she conjures and the kind of power she has, and I guess the entire dynamic around her existence as a witch?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's like the familiars I consider to be basically like contracts slash agreements slash limitations on the magic, or like conduits maybe is a better word, because it's like uh when you're born into which family you're sort of like, in tune with this magic, but like having a familiar. Have you ever read like the Golden Compass series
I
at
have
all?
not on my
Oh,
list.
did you watch the movie?
I did watch the film.
Yeah. So like how it's like the animal continues to change shape, and then as they get
Mhm.
older it settles into like a single form, and that's because, and it's like that's what I sort of, even though they don't have the familiars ahead of time, but like that's what the familiar is, like a representation of like their magic in a way. Uh but like, so the magic that's coming again from Treya is like a funneling, basically going through here and then funneling down through the familiar and just making the magic much more stable within the witch. And like and that's why uh they can feel each other's pain, is because they're contracted to like, be together in this sort of situation, and like because they've made that agreement. But then this other part of her magic that she doesn't actually have an agreement with, this whole plant magic and not the blood magic, is like now funneling unfiltered into her body once she like starts to begin to open up and remember those things, because like it's been locked away after the fire. So she sort of like repressed it and muted herself, essentially, repressed those like feelings. And so then as she begins to open up over the course of the story, with those emotions also comes all of this new magic, and it's sort of like a big overwhelming thing that they have to work through.
So, you mentioned this just now, but part of the story is that Camille's mother, the former matriarch of the Severin family, and her twin sister died in a fire when she was 8 years old.
Mhm.
Um, how's that tragedy continue to affect her at
uh
21?
yeah, no, it's basically when you first meet Camille, she basically doesn't have her own identity at this point. She's basically locked away everything that's personal to her. And you see in flashbacks, I believe, even in volume one, you see like bits and pieces of her like reading or drawing. She used to, every time you see her draw as a kid, you basically see her drawing. She doesn't do that anymore, but she's like repressed all of her identity and like so many of her memories, and like to the point where she doesn't even like remember her father. And
Wow.
yeah, and it's like
Hmm.
yeah, so she doesn't remember her father or remember the true source of the fire, which is definitely the biggest spoiler, so I'm not gonna get into
We don't
that.
know about that yet. Find
Yeah.
about find out later.
Yeah. But yeah, so just uh yeah, so like it basically, the fire basically wiped out everything that she had been growing up to until that point. And so then, now that we return to the manor where the greenhouse fire happened, she has to start confronting these things. And like, and that's why a lot of, well, also with all the expectations around her, she just like is very tense and snippy for the most part, because it's just like these feelings that she has never fully processed just starting to like lash out.
But she's really
Yeah.
learning a lot about herself in the first volume.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how her perspective begins to change, little by little. How did you decide on the process of, you know, unfolding for Camille, or what you wanted her to learn about herself, and how much, I mean, was going to be revealed to like the reader?
So it's sort of towing the line between what is reasonable for her to sort of like process and accept. And it's also kind of like not linear because like healing isn't a linear journey. And like, so she does have moments where she's like kind of getting better and then she does like regress a little bit, uh, and then gets frustrated with having, to regress and being like, it's okay. You've clearly grown. The fact that you recognize this means that you are changing. But yeah, so it's like sort of towing the line between like what like A is fun to read and like uh and B, what is like a reasonable like pace for her to personally learn and grow. If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Um, Something else that I wanted to bring up was like, this is not just a witchy story, but there's polyamory and sapphic romance involved. Um,
Yeah.
what kinds of stories are you interested in telling featuring queer stories, queer
Um,
characters?
yeah, well, like for me, like Muted, I consider, I've said before, is like I consider it, even though Camille is 21, a sort of coming of age story in a way. Because like for me, I didn't realize that I was gay until I was like in my 20s, early 20s. And I feel like when you realize, like fully come to terms with being like, oh, I'm not straight, it's like a whole new be like world shift to be like, how do I process the like whole another coming of age because now you're like having to go through this phase because I didn't go through the whole like dating or whatever like in like my teen years. I feel like most people typically do, at least in movies, because again I never did it, so who knows how common that actually is.
Honestly, I feel like it's a common experience for queer people,
Yeah,
especially of a certain age, to not have those teen dating experiences.
exactly. So yeah, exactly. So it's like even though it's like uh even though she's 21, this is her first like, oh, this is my first time like having a crush, like, oh, this is my first time being like, oh, this girl's actually like really pretty, and like, oh, she's flirting with me, oh, what do I do about that type thing, like never had these kind of like moments and experiences before. And so like and so just like yeah, sort of that journey and experience. And I feel like uh I like to say that Muted in general is just like inherently queer. It's like more rare for there to be just a straight character in Muted. And just because like I feel, through my own experience in my own life, the people I have around me in my life, the people you that are drawn to me at this stage of my life are all, some level all some level of queer, it seems. And so like to me, well, like to people who aren't in that sphere might be like well, for one, I got the comment a lot like, where are all the men? Because there's like no dudes in Muted at all. I would get that comment a lot, be like, are there any guys here? I'm like, there's so many stories with guys. It's okay if there's one story that doesn't have any guys.
That's so funny because I didn't notice.
Yeah, well, like, yeah, exactly. It's like if you don't, in that world, you don't even need to notice because I don't think, yeah, it works fine as it is. That's why I wrote it that way. I'm like, what, and yeah, so just like a very, just like queer story where it's just like that's just how the world is, type of thing. And so it's like I feel uh like whenever I describe Muted, and her antagonist issues with her aunt, uh I know it probably would seem like those be sort of be like, you can't be gay type of conversation, but that literally never comes up. That's like Athleta's like least concern. She's like, I have a lot of problems with you. The fact that you're gay is not top of the list. And
You
we're gonna
know,
fight about it.
I remember reading there's a part in volume one where she's trying to tell someone confide in a new friend about, and I won't give away too much,
Oh,
but I
oh
love
yeah.
that joke where it's like yeah,
Oh,
that's the least of mine. Like,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
he's like, you're a lesbian, and she's trying to say that like I'm from a
No.
different.
Yeah. No. I don't care about that. Yeah. No, I was very proud of that joke.
It was great.
Yay. I'm glad you like it.
So Muta is, as we mentioned, like with the side of romance, but your other series that you co-created with your wife, Lovebot, is all about romance
Yes.
between these highly advanced and affectionate robots in the year of
Yeah.
2049, which, now that I say it out loud, is actually not that far away.
It's getting pretty close, yeah.
What was it like working on that series alongside your partner?
Oh, it was awesome. It was especially good because uh yeah, because like we've known each other since 8th grade, and so we're very like in sync. And so like this process was it's just not actually the first time we've worked on a comic together. We worked on a comic about mermaids back in like 2016 or before that. Um and like just like by ourselves on a website that doesn't exist anymore. So it was his rest in peace, Smack G's. We loved you, we missed you. But yeah, so this was just a really great process because it's like, we already knew we were good at working together, but now we're getting paid to do it. So
That's always a bonus.
right, exactly. And so it was yeah, so like writing the story together, and then I would like sort of PowerPoint those down into like thumbnails, and then she would do the line art and fat, flat colors and backgrounds, and then I would come in and I would do the re-rendering and all the shading and stuff, and it would all come together in a nice little story. But yeah, like the romance in Lovebot, by its name, by the nature of it's called Lovebot, is much more overt because like there definitely is like the romance in Muted, but it's like muted in the sense that like she is coming to her own in identity as like a queer woman, but also she's very much dealing with all these like family problems. So like I call that like a supernatural slash drama verse, whereas like Love Bot I call like a romance drama or sci-fi romance sci-fi.
So you've worked as a freelance illustrator, a layout designer, and graphic designer. What do these positions teach you about illustration and what looks good visually on the page?
I think that it helps a lot to learn as far as like the standards is like I'm very big into fonts. I don't know if you're a font guy, but
I love a good
but like
font.
I love a good font. Yeah, it's like and like that's conversations with Chase like whenever we have to do like any kind of graphic design stuff. She's like, "How do you think this looks?" And she's like, "Do you have opinions on the font?" And I was like, I have opinions on the font. I always have opinions on that type of thing. But like and so just as far as how things work visually like within like the bubbles and like what the size of the bubble should be uh I feel like is a very understated part of comics because like the visuals are important, but you have to be able to read what they're saying to each other in a font that's easy to read. And like visually that I've learned a lot more about because most of my work previously was mostly digital. But anytime I have a job, any bit or piece, like from Muted to Lubba to any freelance job, it's like I just like take like little bits and pieces and be like, oh, this is useful. Because like I was doing like freelance posters for a long time and like just like based on what he'd be like, I want a poster of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'd be like, okay. But like the style, like I kind of picked that up from there, and I was like, yeah, I like that, and so I like ended up rolling it into Muted, and then I think the biggest factor was probably even as far back as being in school for animation because that taught me how to draw quickly and how to not be too precious with every single drawing because you're having to draw so many things. You don't have time to make each one like an individual illustration. You have to be like, this is essentially a storyboard, but like a little bit more than a storyboard, obviously. But I would make it mostly akin to that.
Thank you. And as we wrap up, we've been talking a lot about muted, and what that means and the symbolism behind it. But this show is truly all about confidence, feeling bold, and finding yourself. It is the Zesty podcast, after all.
Yeah, yeah.
When do you feel zesty as a creative or boldest? And you can answer as a creative or just as a person, as an individual.
When I feel boldest, I think it's like I feel like just really good when I'm just like around my friends. Because like I mentioned, I don't know, like I don't if I have a particularly philosophical answer, but like just uh when I am like I mentioned how I have like a whole community of people. It's like when I'm with my friends, it's like I feel like friends that understand you are like a truly like one of the most important things that you can have. And like, obviously Chase is my wife, but also who I consider my best friend. Like having people that just like love and understand you and accept you for who you are. It's like basically like I can do anything. Whatever I want to do, I can conquer and I know that they'll be there to help me type of thing. And it's like and I get a lot of joy and confidence in helping my friends do the same thing. Like if ever they need me, I really like to be the kind of person that people can come to when they need something. That makes me happy.
We've been talking with Miranda Munt, the creator of the graphic novel series Muted. Volume 2 is out Tuesday, October 14th. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope you get a little bit more life this week. I appreciate it.
Yay, thank you. Thank you for having me.